a large part of the MBA experience is about talking to people, learning from other people. If you are around 900 other sharp people, what is the point if you go back and come back as yourself, right? You need to interact with other people, learn from them. There are people from all different profiles in these business schools. I've seen like many students not even applying, thinking that they'll not make it. And given what I've seen in the last, 4 years of both me and my husband at HBS, there are many people with similar profiles who are there, who are sitting in those classrooms.
Hi everyone, this is Piyush Ranjan. I'm the founder and chief consultant of Management Masters. We are a boutique admissions consulting firm for the top MBA and MIM programs. Today we have a very special guest. In fact, I have been following her life journey for almost 10 years now, and she has been instrumental of sorts in my own life journey. She taught me while I was preparing for my IIT preparations. And then she went on to do her MBA from HBS, absolutely one of the best MBA programs in the world. So without further ado, let's have Sneha Biswas with us. Sneha graduated from HBS, but I wouldn't tell you much of her story. Let's hear it from Sneha herself. Welcome, Sneha. It's absolutely a great pleasure to have you here. Would you just give a quick, brief introduction to our viewers?
Thanks, Piyush. Thanks for having me. Yes, absolutely. I'm also privileged to be here, and it's great, nothing better than seeing your own student do great things. I'm sure, like through your venture, you're helping many students follow their dreams of studying abroad. About my background, I graduated from IIT Kharagpur, and after that, I worked in Teach for India for a bit, and from there, I went on to work in Schlumberger, which is an oil field services company. I worked across different segments in different geographies, started in US offshore, Gulf of Mexico, working on ships, and then moved on to Africa, working in Mozambique and Kenya. Then I moved to London for a couple of years, and then moved on to Houston to the Schlumberger headquarters for 2 years before I went to business school at HBS. So that's my journey till HBS, and I'm sure for the viewers that part is more interesting than what I'm doing after HBS.
Thank you so much for that. And that sounds like an incredible journey. But that brings me to the question, because you seem to be having a great career with Schlumberger and really enjoying the work as well. So what really motivated you to go for an MBA at that point of time?
Right. Very interesting question. And my answer is unique. My motivation to do an MBA was not to do an MBA as such. I really wanted to get the Harvard experience. So why it came was because my husband went to HBS 2 years before me. We had no overlap. So he was class of 2018, I was class of 2020. And when he was applying, he really wanted me to apply as well. He said we should apply together, and we've been in long distance for so long, and it's like both of us have good profiles. We should give it a shot together. But I was totally convinced, rightly, as you said, Piyush, I was so in love with my job that I didn't see a need for MBA at all at that point in time. I was doing well, I was getting promoted, I was moving places. There was nothing more that MBA could have offered. However, the 2 years that my husband was there, I used to visit him in Boston while I was in Houston. Just the environment at HBS is so inspiring. And that triggered that thought that I'm missing this part of this way of learning, or this ambience where everybody is so motivated, so enthusiastic to change the world. And my motivation is probably that I only applied to HBS, and if I didn't get through, I would have probably continued at Schlumberger or started my own thing. I don't know what exactly, but it more than the MBA, it was the craze to go to HBS at that point in time.
Right, so HBS literally convinced you to apply to HBS in a way.
Yes. Yes, they stood themselves.
That sounds pretty nice. But then that brings me to another question, which a lot of candidates have, because when it comes to applying to such top-notch schools like HBS, Stanford, Wharton, a lot of students really, or a lot of aspirants, they sort of self-select themselves out of the race, right? They filter it out. I totally understand that you had that sort of example right in front of you in terms of your husband going to HBS, but was there anything else that gave you the confidence that you could apply to that school and really get into it?
Yes, you're right, and that is something that I have a trouble with, especially like my juniors and people who are younger than me, just not giving it a try because they just feel that it's so aspirational that I would not make it. And I completely don't agree with that, because there are people from all different profiles in these business schools. Like even in my classroom, there are people from what we call different tiers of schools. very varied experiences. And that's what makes the class richer, right? Like from the admissions point of view, having students from different universities, different job backgrounds makes it richer. But we somehow on the other side of the table, we feel that, yeah, this profile is not good enough. So for me, I don't think that was much of a consideration, given like I had like the check the box things, right? Like I came from IIT, I went to Schlumberger, I worked with different geographies. So it wasn't that much of a concern, but I've seen like many students not even applying, thinking that they'll not make it. And given what I've seen in the last 4 years of both me and my husband at HBS, there are many people with similar profiles who are there, who are sitting in those classrooms. So you are right. I don't know if I can help in any way to inspire these people to apply. Like there's nothing wrong in applying. The first will happen is to make it.
Absolutely. And I think the next question that I have actually will help you inspire people to apply, because a lot of people, obviously, coming from a top-notch IIT obviously does provide some sort of benefit to you as an applicant. But then what people often miss out on is, for every single IITian who gets into one of these top schools, there are 15 others or 20 others who have just been rejected by the same school. Right. So what I want to really ask about is, what would you say to non-IITians? How did you have a lot of non-IITians in your class, and what would you say in terms of their chances, or should they be applying or not? Because a lot of people who come to us, they come from that particular mindset that, I'm not coming from an IIT or I'm not coming from an SRCC, I have absolutely no chance.
So I completely believe that all these students should apply, because if you look at IITs, there are so many students graduating every year. My batch alone from IIT Kharagpur, the batch I graduated from, had 780 students. And if you look at the number of students who've gone to HBS, if you look at the number of students who've gone to HBS, there are three students so far. So it just sounds like, these people from IIT Kharagpur are going there, but ultimately it's still a race. And there are many people who are not from IITs who have done really well in life, because IIT is a matter of that one exam, that one day, right? So it's not a real determinant of your skill, your caliber, and your actually real world, how you will perform in real world. So there are many people who have done fantastic in their lives, coming from what we call as tier 2, tier 3 colleges. And based on that caliber, they've made it to Harvard, they've made it to Stanford. So people should definitely apply. And a lot matters, not just your undergraduate degree, but your job experience and every other thing counts towards your application.
Thank you so much for that. Also, what would you say about extracurricular activities? Because a lot of people believe that, having sort of like amazing extracurricular activities is almost like a must for every student. Is that true in any sense? Or is that something which is more of a very, very nice to have for candidates? But what matters more, or what matters equally is the kind of impact that you've had in your career so far?
Yeah, I think everything matters, honestly. That's just based on my personal experience.
Yep.
And that's coming from my HBS interview. My interview, they opened with the last thing on my resume, which was that I play tabla. So I have been playing tabla right from the age of 12 years, when I was 10 or 12 years old. And that was like the last item on my resume. And the interviewer said that it would be a strange place for me to open the discussion. But the most interesting thing I found here was that you play this instrument, which most women do not play. So I wanted to understand a little bit more, what is this instrument? How has your journey been? So yes, I think coming from there, I feel that that it is important to have something beyond your work, right? Beyond your academics, beyond your work, something that makes you an interesting person. Also, it shows your persistence towards something, right? Like doing a 2-month volunteering will not get you anywhere in terms of getting, the AdCom, they are smart enough to understand if you're doing it for admissions or you really have a passion for something. So consistently doing or pursuing an activity over a period of time also speaks a lot about your personality, your discipline, your ability to pursue something for a longer period of time. So I think that counts. Obviously, as you said, it's equally important. I wouldn't say like it is the most important, that if you have, there are people who don't have passion, but they've done something in their career which shows a spike, probably, they took up a side project for years and they worked on it or something like that. So it could be something else. It doesn't need to be a sport or a music instrument, but there has to be something a little bit more than just your academics.
Absolutely, makes so much sense. Now, coming back to the Indian context a bit more, right? Because there are so many people who have amazing careers. They graduate, and then they go for an MBA in India, right? They go to the IIMs. But then there are a lot of aspirants who have done this initial postgraduate degree, and a few years down into their careers, they start feeling like they would want to go for another international MBA, right? And is it really worthwhile to go for an international MBA, let's say, if you already have a degree from, let's say, an IIM? Or what would you say? Did you have such people in your classroom?
Not really. I didn't have any. And I wouldn't be in the best place to comment on, somebody's experience studying in an Indian MBA program. I have a lot of friends who have gone through the Indian IIM system, and they're extremely happy and satisfied in their careers, and they're doing well. There are people I know of who have done what you said, who've done an MBA here and they're wanting to go abroad. So I don't think I'm in a position to comment on the quality of education or their experiences, but the advantage of going abroad, given how the world is, globalized and how people are, you will put yourself in a position at some point in your career where you're interacting with people around the world. So that having a degree or having some work experience abroad gives you that network, gives you that ability to interact, collaborate, communicate with people around the world. I think those skills, those networking, like the effect of understanding what people are doing around the world, that just like sparks new ambitions, gives you more opportunities. So that part I think is very, very valuable. If you've only stayed and worked and studied in India, I think you miss out on that particular part of the of learning. But otherwise, I think a lot of Indian schools are also at par with good business schools abroad.
Right. So could you just give us an understanding of what sort of career opportunities are available post an MBA, especially from a top school like HBS, especially for international students?
Yes, absolutely. So pretty much the career options pretty much are the same across the schools in terms of the sectors. In terms of like you could go to a general management role, you could go to a BCPE shop, or you could go to a tech company, like pretty much, or you could join a startup to do your stuff. So pretty much broadly, those are the 5-6 places that people end up going. Or consulting, of course, the big one. In terms of the opportunities for the international students, that was your question, right? Like international students. So right now, a lot of the MBA schools, including HBS, has made this option of making your degree STEM by taking a few courses which are STEM approved courses. So that increases your OPT from 1 year to 2 more years, like 3 years of OPT, which is a good time frame for you to figure out, get more options for H1B, like the number of times you can apply for H1, and give you peace of mind. So I think that given that scenario, pretty much all of these options are open to you. Having said that, there are a few things like consulting, which makes it even easier for international students, given that they have opportunities around the world. So if you don't get a visa in the US, you can do somewhere else and you can come back on an L1 visa. Small startups or smaller funds might not be able to, not just in terms of financially, they might not be able to, but also in terms of the resources and the lawyers and the process, and might not be able to support that. So broadly, all opportunities are open. You have to work through, navigate through the visa process, and obviously what you want to do is also important through all of this.
One question that we received from a lot of aspirants was, a lot of people always talk about, and I think you gave already a very nice answer to what international exposure really means, right? So the kind of experiences that you can gain. But one of the questions that we got a lot was, how can international students, because they're moving to a different country and they're moving to a completely different surrounding, how can they effectively network at their MBA programs? Right? Because it's a very international crowd. It's a very diverse crowd that they get to see, right? And for a lot of international students, it's for the first time in their lives. So would you have any tips, or how did you go about networking with people, networking with your peers or faculty or the other various resources available at HBS?
Yes. So yes, networking is a key part of the MBA experience. Been overwhelming in the first few months, given a lot of, like in some cultures, it's just so natural for people to interact with strangers and have the confidence to communicate even, right? A part of this is what I'm doing post-MBA is to inculcate that confidence in kids that, you have to, that is real life, you have to face people and strangers. As for HBS, it also it puts some structures in terms of you getting comfortable with networking. So there are, for example, they put you into something called discussion group, which is before you discuss the case in your class or whatever in your section, you are mixed up with like 4 or 5 students from different sections and you meet them every morning. So that creates sort of a structure where you meet, new people, then you hang out with them, you have dinners with their friends and so on and so forth. There are like some clubs and social, setting where you can create those social settings and you organically make friends, people with common interests. Having said that, still the need to network is way beyond all of that, like through not just with your peers, but also with your recruiters, because the process, for example, in India, in an undergraduate college, how the recruiting happens is these companies, they come there, you are lined up, you have given your resumes, you called in for interviews. There's not real networking, right? At all. There is zero networking. However, there are events, like there are a lot, every company will be in BCG, McKinsey will do events, they'll meet you in informal settings, in bars and clubs. And just like knowing you beyond that resume is very, very important part for people, for recruiters. So my advice would be to prepare early for those settings, like even when you are working, try to, push yourself to network, push yourself to make genuine connections with people, because for some people it comes naturally. Like for me, networking doesn't come naturally. For me, I have to build an organic relationship with someone to be able to have a good conversation. And that, given my personality, it's not so difficult because I like talking to people. I like, interacting. Not for everybody it is as easy, right? So I would push young people to put themselves in those positions where they are forced to interact, they're forced to communicate with other people, brainstorm different ideas. Even if it's an act, you put it on for, a month or so and see how you feel, because MBA will be a large part of the MBA experience is about talking to people, learning from other people, right? Not just like networking, but the fact that you are around 900 other sharp people, what is the point if you go back and come back as yourself, right? You need to interact with other people, learn from them. So yeah, I think that is the only way you can push yourself to just dive in, do it.
Yeah, that's an absolutely incredible answer, and I think that makes so much sense when you put your thoughts into it, because that's the only possible way to actually learn about other people and sort of move ahead and sort of learn from their own experiences, right? And just to add on to that point, the recruitment happens in the same way even for postgraduate colleges in India. So there's literally no change in that perspective. So that's something that's really, really important that you brought up. Now moving a bit more towards your own career journey that you've had post HBS. So could you just help us understand a little bit, like how did the HBS MBA really prepare you to sort of start your own firm? And at the same time, you decided to come back to India very, very soon after you finished your HBS degree. So how is that HBS MBA really helping you out in both these scenarios? One, moving back to India, and second, starting your own firm.
Right. So I joined Bain after HBS. So I did my summer with Bain and I loved the people, they loved me. So we mutually decided that we should get into this relationship. I still loved what I was doing, but the impact to me was far less than this new interest that I had with trying to solve this problem for kids where they are not as confident in speaking up. Like, even today at this age, we are talking about, how to network, how to communicate, because that's such an important part of growing professionally and personally. And it's completely missing in most education systems around the world. So that problem fascinated me. It has bothered me for many, many years. And HBS sort of gave me that platform where I could explore that idea. Because I've always been interested in education. As you know, I was teaching when you were a student. I went to teach for India after Kharagpur. And over the years, I've gone back and forth with teaching with education. And that sparked, because in HBS, like I'm sure in other schools also, the second year it's pretty much like a candy shop. You can just shop for courses that you love, right? Given you are in one of the best universities and you have so many professors and people doing extraordinary work. So I took up a lot of courses in education just because it was a personal interest, nothing to do with me starting a venture. My idea was, I'm liking this consulting where I get broader perspective of problem solving and understanding. So my taking the courses was just because I loved that segment. So I took up courses in social entrepreneurship to learn different models of addressing the problem of education around the world. And that sort of like, as I said, I think it fulfilled my purpose of going to HBS because my idea was it's a very, very inspirational place. And those courses inspired me so much and it gave me ideas for how can I personally solve this problem instead of like complaining about it for years. How can I personally make a difference and do something about the problem? So when I graduated from HBS, I joined Bain. At the same time, I started exploring this idea of Early Steps Academy, what can be done, talking to a lot of people, focus groups. And over a period of, the 7 months that I was doing Bain, the interest and the impact that I could create with this venture, I felt this was far more than I could ever do in consulting. Although the job was interesting there, we took a call that, if I have to do it, if it feels right, I should do it right away instead of waiting another 6 months, a year or so. And it was pretty much a very quick momentary decision that, yes, this is something I'm enjoying. This is a real problem I'm trying to solve. So let's go all in. So I decided to move back to India. In terms of how has HBS helped me with this decision to move back as well as just starting the venture, number one, the inspiration. It has inspired me to do something at this scale, solving a problem which is global. I think that not going to HBS, I'm not sure how I would have been inspired and in what scale I would have tried to solve this problem. Number two is in terms of tangible resources, right? Just after I graduated, I was part of the Rock Summer Fellow at HBS, which is the entrepreneurship cell, which gives you resources and helps you in, shaping up the idea better, connects you to other people. So second was that. Third is the resources in terms of just the professors, the access to professors. So I have 2 professors who are my close mentors who help me in shaping up this idea and figuring out what curriculum works best for kids of this age. And generally their wide experience in education, in the social sector has helped me form my ideas. So every time like there is some important decision to be made, it's like pretty much my mentors. I would connect with them, have Zoom calls, understand their perspective. So that kind of this is like the whole stream, like from inspiring me to tangibly providing me with resources and mentorship is something which a school like, these schools can provide other people as well who are inspired to learn.
That sounds absolutely incredible. In fact, it's making me want to go to HBS now. but coming towards the end of this of sorts, if you had to pick up, let's say, one factor that makes HBS a unique MBA program or a university itself, what would you say that would be?
I think the pedagogy makes it unique, the case study method. Given that education to most people from childhood to even later years, it's about books, it's about absorbing a lot of information, and it's mostly one-sided, right? Where you absorb a lot of information. This whole method of case study where you're put in the shoes of real life leaders, where you're made to collaborate with other people and come to a common thinking is very unique to HBS. And a lot of business schools have adopted it, but obviously they've done it for 100 years now and they know best how to do it. I think that makes it very unique. That the fact that even a finance case is a subject in finance is taught through the case study method is absolutely mind-blowing, right? Like it doesn't matter how good you are in making financial models, the ability to communicate your ideas in that classroom where you have 90 other people who are smarter than you, that makes the experience extremely enriching and extremely useful and relevant in the real world, right? In the real world, you don't sit with a pen and paper and absorb information, talk to other people and collaborate for your ideas. I think the case study method makes it very unique.
Thank you so much for that. And as a closing question, what would be your, let's say, 1 or 2 tips for aspirants or advice for aspirants who are looking to apply to HBS or the other top schools in the US, looking for great education?
I think I'll have 2 things to say. Number one is don't be intimidated by the school brands. Please try and apply at least. Try. The worst that can happen is you will not get through, right? Anyway, you are not there. So you should apply. And number 2 is don't be afraid of seeking out for help and mentorship. So talk to other people who have gone there, or even like your colleagues, your peers, whoever can help you. Please ask out for help, because there is a lot in our head which we need to go back and forth with other people to shape those ideas, to gain that confidence. So please ask for help. I personally I try to help anyone. So anybody who wants help, I will be more than happy to encourage and help in any shape and form I can. But please look out around yourself and ask for help.
Thank you so much for that. It's absolutely very pragmatic and very sort of realistic advice. And again, it's been incredible having you, Sneha. I wish you the best for your venture and everything else. And really, really nice having you with us.